The movie begins as a teenage boy named Thomas wakes up in an underground elevator. Thomas has no recollection of how he got there and immediately starts panicking as the lift approaches the top. Eventually, it reaches a stop and the overhead hatch opens up, revealing a bright, sunny light. A group of boys quickly bring him out of the hatch and throw him to the ground. Frightened, Thomas starts running but doesn't make it far before falling to the ground. He eventually picks himself up and looks around to find nothing but an open field surrounding him. Soon after, he is captured by the boys and thrown into a makeshift cell. A few minutes later, Thomas is released by Albie, who introduces himself as the group's leader. Albie gives him a tour around the camp and shows him some other boys, including Newt, the co-leader, and Chuck, a new arrival like him. Eventually, Albie takes Thomas to a treehouse and explains the camp situation. It turns out that the area is a strange but secure place known as the Glade, which is enclosed by a perimeter of high and dense walls. On the other hand, the region outside the walls called the maze is dangerous. Hence, only a special squad known as the Runners are allowed to go past the walls. Albie also informs Thomas that a new boy arrives via the elevator every month and joins the rest of the group. Sadly, they all have no memory of their lives before arrival besides their names. After Albie briefs him, Thomas hangs out with Chuck in a shed. A curious Thomas leaves the shed and heads towards the walls as Chuck chases after him, amidst warnings not to enter the maze. Right then, the duo spots two runners named Ben and Meanu returning from their daily run into the maze. This makes Thomas even more curious as he approaches the wall to inspect things for himself. However, before he can reach it, a boy named Gally pushes him to the ground. Thomas immediately freaks out as the Gladers surround him. He frantically asks what has passed the walls and demands that they free him from the Glade. However, he hears a series of roars coming from the maze with the wall closing behind him. Seeing this, Thomas recognizes that the maze is indeed dangerous and finally calms down. At night, Newt approaches Thomas, and the duo strikes a conversation. The co-leader tells him that the maze is confusing as its terrain changes every night. Newt also explains that there are lethal creatures in the maze known as the Grievers, who lurk through it every night and also have a deadly sting that turns their victims mad. Hence, the runners always return before nightfall to avoid being killed. The following day, Thomas spots Meanu and Albie entering the maze. However, several hours later, they do not return, which greatly concerns the rest of the boys. After waiting for a while, they spot Meanu in a distance carrying Albie as they approach the wall. Sadly, the entrance begins to close as Meanu struggles to help the leader. Seeing this, Thomas hastily enters the maze at the last second as the wall shuts behind him. Meanu is shocked at his bravery but reprimands him for entering the maze. Despite this, he is thankful to have some company there and begins making plans to survive the night. Shortly after, Thomas learns that Albie has been stung by a Griever and, with Meanu's help, carries him through the maze. A few hours later, nightfall arrives, and the duo decides to tie Albie up the wall using some vines to prevent him from slowing them down. As they do this, a Griever approaches from a distance, lurking in the shadows. A frightened Meanu runs away, leaving Thomas alone with Albie. Thomas struggles to tie the leader and manages to do it before the Griever finds him. However, he doesn't remain hidden for long as the Griever spots and chases after him. Thomas races at full speed with the creature in hot pursuit. Soon, he runs into Meanu, who leads him to a wall, which is just about to close. Thomas stalls for a while and lures the Griever into the shutting wall, which compresses and ultimately kills the creature. The next morning, they retrieve Albie and return to the Glade as the rest of the boys cheer for them in excitement. They take Albie to the camp sick bay, after which they hold a meeting where Meanu briefs them about the entire event. Gally is appalled by their experience and suggests that Thomas be punished for breaking the rules as he entered the maze without their permission. However, Newt disregards his suggestion and makes Thomas an official runner instead. Right then, they hear the sound of the underground elevator and race to it. There, they find a girl named Teresa lying unconscious. She wakes up shortly after shocking the boys as she calls Thomas' name before passing out again. They take her to the makeshift clinic, but the medics struggle to resuscitate her. They decide to let her rest for a while as Thomas and Meanu leave the clinic to explore the maze. This time they go with 3 other guys to analyze the remains of the Griever they killed. Reaching there, they find a strange device inside the creature's carcass with the number 7 written on it. They are perplexed by the device and decide to return it to the camp. When they arrive, Minu takes Thomas to the runner's base and shows him a map of the maze he constructed after years of exploring the area. Minu explains that there are 8 maze sectors, each of which opens up every night to release a griever. He also states that the sector that opened last night was the 7th sector, which explains the number written on the device. For Minu can explain further, they are distracted by the medics who inform them that Teresa is now awake. They immediately rush to the scene and find her atop the treehouse, hurling stones at the boys below. The boys try to pacify her, but all their efforts prove futile. However, Thomas shows up and manages to calm her down as the duo engages in dialogue. Teresa freaks out over having no memories, but Thomas explains that it is normal as the boys also have no recollection of their past lives. As Thomas tries to further explain the Glade to her, Teresa reveals that she found 2 syringes in her pocket when she arrived. Thomas sees an inscription on the syringe and recognizes it to be the same one as the device in the griever. He immediately gets an idea and decides to inject Albie with the syringe to see if it could work as an antidote. At night, they hold an agitated Albie down as Teresa injects him with the syringe, which tranquilizes the leader. The next morning, Minu and Thomas return to the maze with the retrieved device. As they enter the maze's center, the device starts beeping, leading them to an unexplored tunnel. However, before they can check the place out, a series of traps activate, and the duo has no choice but to leave. They sprint through the maze and narrowly escape the deadly booby traps as they return home. Upon returning to the Glade, they discover that Albie has regained consciousness. Sadly, he is highly anxious and refuses to talk with anyone. However, when Thomas shows up, Albie tells him that he now remembers everything from his past. Before he can reveal any more, they hear people screaming from outside the tent and go outside to check out what's happening. There, they are horrified to discover that the maze walls are open, allowing the grievers to enter the Glade. The camp immediately goes into a frenzy as the monsters chase and attack them. They split into groups and hide in various locations. However, the grievers find them in every spot and kill most of the Gladers. The remaining survivors enter a barricaded tent to escape the grievers, but one of the creatures finds and attacks them. The griever grabs Chuck with one of its tentacles and is about to stab him with its sting when Albie cuts it off and rescues the boy. Sadly, Albie is also attacked and ultimately killed by the creature. A few moments later, the grievers retreat to the maze, and the survivors exit the tent. Thomas infers that the griever's sting was responsible for Albie's recollected memories, and stabs himself with the severed tentacle to regain his. The group is terrified as they see this, and inject him with the remaining syringe to cure him. Thomas regains consciousness. He recalls his memories, and informs the rest of the Gladers that they were put in there as a test. It turns out that he and Teresa worked for a company called WCKD, which is responsible for the test, and put them all in there. However, he doesn't remember much past that. Hearing this, the group decides to find a way out and explore the rest of the maze. Gally is against it and urges them to stay, but Thomas convinces some other boys to come along with them. Eventually, the group splits in two, as one half remains in the Glade while the other enters the maze to begin their escape. Thomas leads them through the maze in search of the tunnel. On reaching there, they find a griever in front of the passage and decide to attack the creature. They point and poke it with wooden sticks, while Teresa and Chuck try to unlock a password in the tunnel's walls. They manage to defeat the griever by pushing it off the edge, but several others arrive as a fierce fight ensues. The group desperately wards the creatures off, but the grievers manage to capture and kill a handful of them during the fight. Thankfully, before the grievers finally corner them, Teresa and Chuck figure out the code, causing the walls above the grievers to fall in close, thus killing the monsters. Shortly after, a metal door opens, and the group goes through it, leaving the maze as they find themselves in a science facility. They explore the area and find several dead people on the floor with the workspace in shambles. Thomas spots a button on a computer and presses it, prompting a pre-recorded video to start playing. The woman in the video explains that the Earth was afflicted by a massive solar flare, after which, a deadly incurable virus sprung up and plagued humans. Luckily, a new generation of kids was born immune to the virus, prompting some scientists to put them through a series of tests to find a cure. Learning this, the group realizes that they are the new generation who were sent to the maze as a test. Before they can fully grasp the situation, the woman in the video points a gun to her head and shoots herself, as some armed men are seen in the background, taking over the facility. The group tries to leave the building but runs into Gally, who is holding a gun. His eyes appear pitch black, indicating that he's gone mad due to a griever's sting. Gally points his gun at Thomas and shoots at him but misses as Mean hauls a spear towards the mad boy, instantly killing him. Sadly, it is too late, as Gally had already taken the shot which hit Chuck. The boy falls to the ground while Thomas holds him, sobbing as Chuck shares his final words. Right then, a group of men arrives at the facility, taking the kids outside and into a helicopter. The movie ends as they fly over a deserted wasteland, while the boys stare in the maze behind them. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.